Welcome back to the channel. My name is Jeff. This is Jeff Reads. And as it is Tag Tuesday, I thought I would do a book tag. I was looking for a kind of an end of the year-ish tag. And there are end of the year book tags that I found, but I didn't like them very much. But then I saw a book tag called the Postscript BookTag, which is, kind of another way of doing an end of the year book tag. I saw it on Tall Guy Reads, and I'll link it down to his video. And then I think it was originally created in 2018 by Adam at Memento Mori, and I'll also link that video down as well. But a lot of people have done it in various years. I think this is something that I'd like to adopt at the end of the year. This is a nice kind of postscript. It's a way of kind of summing up the year. Not too comprehensively, but enough. So anyway, without further ado, the Postscript BookTag 2022 version. Okay, so there will be 9 questions and then a tag portion of it at the end where I will tag other booktubers. So question 1, the longest book you read this year and the book that took you the longest to finish. So both of these are in one book. That would be Jules Verne's The Mysterious Island. And I did a full-length book review on it, which I will link down below in the description box. It's like 800 pages long. It took me a long time to finish. It was a long book. And I'm glad I read it because it gave me insight into Verne's place in the hard sci-fi tradition. I really came to understand why he really should be considered the father of hard science fiction. Maybe Mary Shelley would be the mother of, in a sense, science fiction, but her science is a little soft in my, in my estimation. There is science in there, and it is definitely a science fiction novel. But Verne's brain and the way that he adopted the sciences of his day to the adventures in the book, to me, very much hard science fiction. And so much of it is real. It's right. It's correct. Like, Verne knew so much about the science of his day and used that knowledge to push plots forward in the book in a way that was fascinating. So I recommend. He's not a good writer in terms of dramatic story, characters, and sweep and pacing. Verne's really clunky for me, for my taste, and even for his time. It's not that it's anachronistic, because Wells is a beautiful writer, and he was writing around the same time as Verne was. So Verne is a clunky writer. He's not a good storyteller. But if you're curious and you kind of want him under your wing, at the very least, Mysterious Island was a fascinating read. So I'm going to try to get to 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea and Journey to the Center of the Earth. I want to read at least those 3 to kind of have my Verne chops, as it were, as a science fiction reader. But anyway, yeah, so that was definitely the longest book. Felt the longest, took the longest to finish. Question number 2, a book that you read this year that was outside of your comfort zone. I didn't really read too much outside my comfort zone this year. This was a busy year. I'm in school, I'm going for a master's degree, and I just recently moved, so I haven't had the kind of emotional luxury to take on something thorny and difficult, because life has been a little hectic. So the thing the closest to it was a book called The Tartar Steps by a writer called Dino Buzzati. And I saw a review of it by Cliff at Better Than Food Book Reviews, which I'll also link down in the description box. And I loved Cliff's review. He was very passionate about it. He really liked it a lot. And it purports to be about, it's kind of not specifically named exactly what time period it is and exactly what country it is, but it's a young man who goes off to serve at a fort, basically on the frontier. And the whole idea is he gets to this fort, and as a young man, he's very excited that, hey, I'm off to the fort. I'm on the front lines, and I'm going to have this exciting life. And episodically, you follow this character then through his life, and what happens or does not happen, which is more the case. What does not happen up at the front on this fort. So it's slow going at times. It has a very powerful thematic heft to it. It's a literary novel for sure, and it definitely has something to say about the choices one makes in terms of vocation and the ideas about what you're going to do with your life, and how long you stay at something versus how long you should stay at something. So there was definitely some nuggets in there that I enjoyed, but overall it was a slow read. I didn't think he brought it off. And again, it hasn't been a book that's been revived and reintroduced to the reading public, which makes me think that I'm kind of on the mark where it's sort of like, I don't know this writer at all, and I don't know what else that he wrote. But it was a really cool idea, and to me, it was brought off marginally, you know. So I don't even know if I'd recommend it, but anyway, Cliff's review is really cool. So if you're interested in a full on review, I would check out Cliff's, see if you might like to read it. Okay, question number 3. How many books did you reread? So I try to reread a good chunk of books each year. I reread 7 books this year. Virtual Light by William Gibson, which I found as disappointing and uninteresting as I did the first time. I reread Clarke's Rendezvous with Rama, which I very much enjoyed again. That book has pretty much stayed in my estimation. I probably read it 3 or 4 times now. Nice, quick read. It's nice reading, 70s sci-fi. It's just, they're not, they put all the ideas in and they do it in 250 pages so you can get through it. Very light on characterization, but very rich in ideas, and Clarke's prose is wonderful. So I really enjoyed it again. I reread a Jack Reacher novel called Never Go Back, which was the basis for the second Tom Cruise Jack Reacher film, which is just a crackerjack thriller novel. I'm just a huge fan of Lee Child. I discovered him late. I discovered him in like 2015 or 16, I think, and just blew through all of the Reacher books. And now he's a first buy. He doesn't write them anymore. His brother writes them now, and he's not doing as good a job. But of the 23 Lee Child Reacher books, there's a few clunkers in there, but they're wonderful reads. So I Never Go Back was wonderful. I reread the Lord of the Rings trilogy, so that would be 3 books there: Fellowship of the Ring, Two Towers, Return of the King. I have a 2-part in-depth review on my channel, so you can find that down in the description box. Enjoyed it yet again, new layers, discovered more things about it, really had a wonderful time. Just seeing a whole new set of interesting literary devices, and still loving it and finding a connection to the character. It's weird with Rings. Every time I read it as I get older, the little boy in me still gets as much enjoyment out of it as he did when he was 15. But the adult in me enjoys it on just as much on other levels. So it's not like I'm losing one and gaining another. I still have that wonderful sense of that child reading Lord of the Rings. But there's an added part of as an adult recognizing the prose style, how he's laying things out, the metaphorical subtext of good and evil, how nuanced it is, how contra-tropey it is. It is not tropey, in my estimation, and I go through that pretty in depth in my review. But anyway, loved it. Just loved it all over again, as I always do. Also reread Robert Jordan, The Eye of the World, because I really would like to finally take a serious stab at reading the entire Wheel of Time, 14-book series plus the prequel. I've read the first 5 books about 4 times. They're incredibly good, some of the best fantasy ever written. So I just recently finished rereading Eye of the World, and I did a review on it. I'll link that, of course, in the description box below as well. Enjoyed it thoroughly. And I'm going to slowly climb Mount Wheel of Time over the next 1.5 years, I'm hoping. Okay, question 4. Favorite reread? I would say Rings, probably. Lord of the Rings was my favorite reread of this year. Tied closely with Eye of the World, but Rings just unfolded on so many new layers. So I've already kind of spoken about that. I'll go to the next question. Question number 5. A book you read for the first time this year that you look forward to rereading in the future. So that was Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. I loved The Martian, thought it was wonderful. Andy Weir, now that I've read Verne, Andy Weir and Jules Verne, to me, very close connection there. They write very similar. And even more than science fiction, I would call what Andy Weir and Jules Verne do as engineer fiction, because it really is all about how problems are solved through the use of actual science and actual engineering. And Project Hail Mary for kind of a redo of The Martian, as well as a First Contact novel with an alien species. Fantastic. I did not read Artemis. I think I tried Andy Weir's second novel, Artemis, for maybe 20, 30 pages, and I did not like the main character at all. I didn't like the feel of the prose. I didn't like the style of it, so I didn't read it. So I was really not thinking, I'm like, okay, he's going to be a one-hit wonder. He's The Martian, and the rest of them are going to suck. But Project Hail Mary was right up there with The Martian. Just astoundingly good book, and looking forward to rereading that in a couple of years for sure. Okay, number 6, favorite single short story or novella that you read this year. So unfortunately, it's a reread for me, and that is The Red One by Jack London, written in like the early, 20th century. One of my favorite short stories of all time, one of Jack London's handful of science fiction short stories. It's a wonderful story. I've done a full-length story review on it on my channel, and I'll link that as well down in the description box. This feels like an advertisement for my bloody channel. I didn't set out to do it that way. But anyway, it's a wonderful story about a naturalist in the Solomon Islands who hears this incredible sound coming from the interior of Guadalcanal, and travels inland to find out what it is and his adventures and what he actually finds and what implications it has for civilization. Wonderful, wonderful story. Highly recommend anyone who's even remotely interested in even the weird fiction of the early 20th century and science fiction. Read The Red One, and you can read it for free at Project Gutenberg. Most of London's work now is in public domain, so no excuse to not read it. Question number 7, Mass Appeal, a book you liked and would recommend to a wide variety of readers. So strangely enough, contrary to all expectations, I liked Heat 2, which was the novel sequel to the film Heat, directed by Michael Mann, starring Robert De Niro, Al Pacino. Heat 2 is kind of a split novel. It takes place, a chunk of the novel takes place before the film Heat does. So you're with Neil's crew in Chicago as they're pulling off a caper. And then a big chunk of the novel takes place after the end of Heat, and you're following this character, Chris Shiherlis, who's the only one of Neil's crew who survives and gets out unscathed. And I was sort of like, this is going to be terrible. Like, what could this possibly be? Mann supposedly was very much involved in the writing, along with a novelist Meg Gardner. It's a terrific thriller. Really surprised. I would recommend it to folks who like a good modern crime novel or a good modern thriller. Would highly recommend it. Like, the set pieces were terrific. The writing's a little overheated. It's in kind of Mann's macho tough guy style, but I don't mind that style, so it was okay. So the prose is all right. And the set pieces and the research that Mann does for some of the set pieces is you're getting educated in kind of international crime of the day. Really wonderful. So yeah, highly would recommend to a wide variety of readers, Heat 2. Question number 8, Specialized Appeal, a book you liked but would be hesitant to recommend to just anyone. So that would probably be Goldfinger by Ian Fleming. I'm going to do a full-length Goldfinger review probably very soon, since I just finished it. And so why did I liked it? Because Fleming is a consummate entertainer, but he's also a very good writer. So the prose quality of the James Bond novels most of the time is very high. There are some that are middling, fair to middling, but most of the time the prose is wonderful. So it's almost like if Graham Greene would have written a little more pulpy, more action-oriented spy novels. You're getting a very high level of writing, but you're also getting kind of a prototypical techno-thriller, because Fleming goes into things. So when he does set pieces on certain parts of the book, you have to learn a little bit about the subject that the set piece is about. So at some point, they're trying to get Blofeld to come out of hiding, and so Blofeld thinks has blood in England. They think he's like an undiscovered count, that he has royal blood. So Bond has to go undercover as sort of someone who's an expert in that field of heraldry and landed gentry. And so you get like a chapter in the novel about how all that works. Now, I know it doesn't sound too sexy, but Fleming does this with everything. So if you're there's a part of Goldfinger where he's playing Goldfinger in a round of golf, and it's like a 3-chapter set piece of their golf game. And it's like the most astounding thing you've ever read. It's like a gripping, because Fleming knows the game of golf very well, and so he's using all of the ins and outs of the game to create drama and tension. And of course, Goldfinger's kind of a cheat, so there's that element of it. But it's a wonderful, wonderful, most modern thrillers that are written today, the prose, the way they're written, it's really badly written. It's very pedestrian prose, not much to it. But Fleming could write. They're beautifully written books. Now, I wouldn't recommend it to just everyone because Fleming is a novelist of his day. He is not very charitable when it comes to women and non-whites, let's put it that way. So he's a bit of a xenophobe. And again, Bond's attitude towards women, I guess if you were a man reading a novel of that day, you would chuckle along with Bond. Reading the novels now, when Bond does some things that he does to women, you're kind of aghast. And Bond's view as a staunch colonialist, on Koreans and Indians and basically non-whites, pretty tough to take in 2022. To me, it doesn't detract from the novel at all. In 100 years, if any of us write anything, I'm sure we're going to be excoriated for some of the things that we take for granted now as, oh, well, that's no big deal. We can say X, Y, and Z. And people 100 years from now are going to be like, well, how could you read this person? They thought this was that. So I feel like that will be perennial. That will be centuries. They will just be that forever. So it doesn't bother me. I will point it out when I do reviews so I don't bury my head in the sand. And I'll say, hey, look, here's some things he wrote about women. You should know about it going in. But I'd stack up Fleming against any thriller writer in history. Seriously, especially 5 spy fiction writers. He is in the top 5. Just in the situations he comes up with and the level of prose, characterization. Wonderful. And I'm going to go more into that in my Goldfinger review. But I've reviewed a bunch of Fleming on my channel. So if you go anywhere on my channel, I reviewed On Her Majesty's Secret Service, You Only Live Twice, Man with the Golden Gun, 3 or 4 of them. And I'm going to keep going. I'm probably going to do all of Fleming's because I'm just finding riches in each book. I'm just continually astounded by what a good writer he is and how entertaining and fun they are to read. So yeah, so that's why I wouldn't recommend it to everybody. Okay, question number 9. Reflect on your year as a bookish content creator. Goals met, good, bad memories, favorite videos you made, etc. So December 3rd of this year is going to be, which I think is coming up in like a week, will be my first anniversary as a booktuber. And it was, it was a wonderful year. I'm so grateful that I was able to discover BookTube and that I decided to make videos. I'm a little disappointed because I wanted to post a video every week. I wanted to do 52 videos this year. I think I've only done 35 or 37. But life just got in the way. I started a new relationship. I'm now in school for a master's degree. I work a full-time job. The past 2 months, I've moved to a new town outside of New York City. So there's been a lot going on in my life, and sometimes the tank is just full and I just don't have time to read, or if I do read, I don't have time to actually make the video on the book. So I'm kind of bummed. My goal is to try to make a BookTube video every week and average 52 a year. I don't think I could do more than that, given my life and my schedule. But yeah, so I'm, hopefully maybe this year will be the year where I'll get to do that. Who knows? But I'm pretty pleased with my channel. I'm more than pleased with the relationships I'm starting to make with other booktubers. And now we're batting the ball back and forth on each other's channel. Like that's so great. And I've discovered that the BookTube community has turned out to be even better than I thought it would be. I think it's a wonderful community of very, very bright, wonderful reviewers, widely read, all across the spectrum. And it's really an incredible spectrum of readers doing some amazing work. I mean, I feel like I get more out of BookTube than I do out of professional reviews in newspapers, because I can get the raw enthusiasm of some readers who might connect some dots that a professional reviewer would not. So anyway, I just love it. Yeah, and it seems the most popular videos on my channel this year, I did a review of David Eddings' The Belgariad, which is a 5-book fantasy series which came out in the 1980s, which I read as a young man. And I wanted to go back and revisit it, and I was delighted to find that I was very entertained by it. So the algorithm found me, and I think I've got 3,000 views on that one, which I was like, it was stuck at like 200 forever. And then the algorithm discovered me. So that's my most popular video. Stephen King, The Talisman, Peter Straub, Stephen King, The Talisman, second most popular. I've got a couple of thousand of those. And the Conan pastiche novels, of all things, has become a very popular video as well. So I've got 3 videos that are in the thousands, and then everything else does a huge jump then. The rest of my videos are in, most of them are, 100 and less. And then there's a handful that are in the multiple hundreds. So, I'm trundling along. I've seen other booktubers who have come even after me or around the same time as me. Their numbers are way high, way up. But they post all the time. They post almost every day. And so I get it. I sort of see if I really wanted to make this something and get numbers, I have to do a lot more work. I have to post a lot more videos, and just not prepared to. So I'm kind of happy that I've decided to let it be just this outlet that it can go fallow for a couple of weeks, and then if I hook it to a book and I'm excited about it and I make notes about it, I have an outlet for it. So so I'm pretty pleased. I started off as not just book reviews, and then I split it off into Jeff Reads and Jeff Screens. So I have another channel called Jeff Screens, which I've done very little with, unfortunately. I'm debating whether or not to take it down. I've just hardly had the time to do book reviews versus to do movie stuff too. Haven't been watching as many movies. So yeah, that was kind of disappointment. I thought I would do more of that, but I have to clone myself, which, don't know how to do yet. Okay, so tagging some fellow booktubers. Steve Donahue, you're very lucky because my cleaning lady is out. So I can't tag her. So I'm tagging you, Donahue. You're it. I'm going to tag Michael K. Vaughan because he's the reason why I got into this racket in the first place. I'm going to tag Bart at Book Rising with Bart J. I want to tag Fred at Read by Fred. And I want to tag MJ at Reading This Life. Go forth and tag. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time.